Marcellus was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of slow-cooked oxtails when his phone buzzed. A message flashed across the screen. "Boss, I miss you." I froze. The world seemed to shrink around the black rectangle lying on the marble countertop. I didn't think, I acted. My fingers typed a reply on his behalf. "Come over. My wife isn't home today." A few minutes later, the doorbell rang. Marcellus, completely unaware, hummed softly while stirring. He wore the navy blue apron I had gifted him on our anniversary. From behind, he looked every bit the successful. Devoted husband, the kind of man friends brag about. The aroma of slow-cooked oxtails filled the condo, warm and comforting, the scent of home. I had believed until that instant that my life was perfect. The aroma, the luxury condo, the man I loved, they were all real. But now, the illusion cracked. Marcellus turned with a smile, radiant and handsome. Fine lines around his eyes added to his charm. He asked me to taste the gravy. I obliged, keeping my hands steady. But my mind was elsewhere. That short, simple message on his phone shattered my world. 4 words that revealed a betrayal I had long suspected. The message came from Kaani, the young intern Marcellus had been praising. She was eager, polite, quick to learn, and apparently too eager for more than office tasks. I took a deep breath. My rational mind, honed from years of struggle and ambition, refused to break. There would be no yelling, no chaos. If I lost control, Marcellus could spin any excuse, dismissing it as a joke from an immature girl. I needed something concrete, proof that would leave no room for denial. As Marcellus chopped vegetables, the rhythmic sound of the knife against the cutting board masked my rapid heartbeat. I picked up his phone. The passcode? Our wedding anniversary. I unlocked it with deliberate precision. The unread message stared at me. I typed my reply quickly, coldly, with surgical precision. "Come over. My wife isn't home today." The blue double check appeared instantly. I smiled faintly, snapping a screenshot from my records and deleting the original. I returned the phone to the exact spot. Marcellus' humming remained oblivious. To the world, he was still the perfect husband. But in my eyes, every gesture, every smile had turned repulsive. Hypocrisy wore his face like a mask. He served the oxtails with pride, placing them in a large serving dish on the dining table. The aroma of allspice, thyme, and rich beef spread through the room. Yesterday, this would have moved me to joy. Today, it tasted like ashes. I forced myself to accept the plate, chewing slowly, suppressing the bile of betrayal. Marcellus chatted happily about work, promotions, and office gossip. Not once did Connie's name pass his lips. 6 years of marriage, built from struggle and promise, flashed before me. We had started with nothing in a tiny studio apartment. Marcellus had vowed to work tirelessly, so I would never lack. And he had delivered: luxury condo, comfort, abundance. But wealth had made him greedy for something beyond the marriage. We had built together. Feigning fatigue, I set down my fork. Marcellus immediately hovered, concerned. His hand brushed my forehead, warm yet chilling in its duplicity. I excused myself to get water, glancing at the clock. Time slowed, mocking me. Connie would arrive any moment. The doorbell rang. Ding dong. Marcellus froze, confused. Who could that be at this hour? His eyes flicked to me. I remained calm. I would handle this. I opened the door. Connie stood there, small, perfectly made up, clutching a cupcake box. Her flirtatious smile evaporated instantly. Fear replaced arrogance, her face paling. She had imagined greeting Marcellus with honeyed words. Instead, she faced me, the lawful wife. Silence enveloped the hallway. Every second stretched unbearably. She froze, realizing she had walked straight into a trap. Marcellus arrived moments later, eyes wide, frozen in panic. I spoke, calm but cutting. "Hello, Connie. Are you here to see my husband?" Her pupils contracted. Marcellus's jaw tightened. I let the moment linger, tension suffocating, until she followed me inside. The show had begun. I led Connie into the living room, every step measured, deliberate. She was trembling, her small hands clutching the cupcake box as though it were a lifeline. Marcellus followed behind, his face pale, sweat beading at his temples. He had no idea what was coming, and the look of confusion in his eyes was almost delicious. I gestured toward the armchair. "Please sit," I said softly. But the authority in my voice left no room for argument. She hesitated, taking the seat as if stepping into a cage. Marcellus hovered near the sofa, too stunned to move further. Like a man frozen by the weight of his own guilt, I introduced Connie formally, emphasizing every word with subtle cruelty. "This is Kaani," I said, letting the syllables drip with icy clarity. "She's the intern Marcellus has spoken of so fondly. How nice that you could come all this way to see him." Marcellus's eyes darted between us, panic rising. He had expected me to be oblivious, to remain the wife unaware of the web of lies he had spun, but now his silence betrayed him. I turned to Marcellus, voice sweet, almost innocent. "Darling, would you like some tea?" "Connie, what would you like?" I asked, deliberately placing the cheap disposable cup before Connie while serving ourselves in fine china with gold rims. Her face went crimson. She understood the message instantly. In this house, in this life, she was temporary, disposable. I sat next to Marcellus, resting my head on his shoulder, forcing him into tension. I could feel the rapid beating of his heart through his shirt. The cold sweat sliding down his temples betrayed every thought he tried to hide. He wanted to say something, to apologize, to smooth things over, but the words died in his throat. I spoke to Connie innocuously at first, asking about her internship. "Is Marcellus very demanding? Does he ever harass the interns?" My tone was casual, almost conversational. Her replies were monosyllabic, timid, eyes fixed on the floor, avoiding my gaze. I could see fear, envy, bitterness, and humiliation all mingling in her expression. Every detail of my behavior was calculated. I smiled, caressed Marcellus' arm, and spoke lovingly to him in front of her. She witnessed how the man she coveted belonged completely and legally to another. She was powerless, excluded from the life, the future, and even the assets Marcellus and I shared. Then I shifted the subject, turning to Marcellus with excitement. "I've been thinking about our vacation plans for next month," I said, letting joy color my voice. "St. Lucia, the blue sea, white sand, candlelight dinners. And I found a beautiful lake house in the Blue Ridge Mountains for weekends. We could grow our own garden, go fishing, enjoy peaceful days, and plan for our parents' future together." Connie's lips parted slightly, a subtle gasp escaping. She realized there was no room for her in this life. No part of the future she had fantasized about with him. Every word I spoke was a reminder. She was nothing but a temporary distraction. Marcellus, powerless, could only sit and watch. The room felt suffocating. The air thickened with tension, the unspoken truth pressing down on all of us. Not even the soft hum of the air conditioning could disperse it. Kiani shrank further into the chair, her hands clenching the cupcake box like a lifeline, her knuckles white. I decided to push the psychological pressure further. "Darling," I said to Marcellus, keeping my voice sweet and affectionate, "why don't you tell Connie about our plans for next year? Our investments, the charity work, the renovations we're planning." I leaned closer to him, whispering as though sharing a secret meant for us alone. Fully aware Kaani could hear every word, Marcellus shifted uncomfortably. His hands twitched. Beads of sweat traced lines down his face. The man who once appeared so confident in the office, the perfect husband, now seemed small, powerless, a puppet in my carefully staged scene. Connie's eyes widened with each detail I revealed. Every word was a dagger. She was excluded from everything meaningful. From love, from family, from the life she had imagined sharing with Marcellus. Her presence here in my home was meaningless. I paused, letting the silence linger, letting them feel the weight of every second. Marcellus avoided my gaze, unable to respond, trapped by his own deceit. Connie sat frozen, humiliation, fear, and despair battling within her. Then I smiled innocently and said, "Why don't we have some dessert?" I gestured to the cupcake she had brought. She looked at it nervously, unsure if she should offer it or leave it there. I poured tea for Marcellus and myself in our fine china, placing the cheap cup before her like a silent sentence. The contrast was stark, deliberate, humiliating. Connie's face turned a deep shade of red. She had understood completely. She was an intruder, an outsider, a temporary fantasy that had no place in our world. Marcellus remained silent, trapped by his cowardice, unable to comfort her or himself. The stage was set, the trap had closed, and I, calm, collected, and utterly in control, watched as the fear and regret slowly consumed them. The night was far from over. The room was suffocating. Connie sat rigid in the armchair, her fingers still clutching the cupcake box. Knuckles pale and trembling, Marcellus, stiff as a statue, remained glued to the sofa, his eyes darting nervously between us. Every subtle shift in my posture, every soft word I spoke, became a weapon in this silent war. I leaned closer to Marcellus, whispering as though sharing a secret meant for us alone. I can't wait for our weekend getaway. We'll plant tomatoes in the garden, catch fish by the lake, and cook our meals together. Connie's head tilted slightly, her pupils dilating as the reality of exclusion sank in. She was watching, helpless. The man she desired completely unattainable, legally and emotionally mine. Every word I spoke hammered her further into fear and envy. I turned back to Kaani, my tone sweet, casual, yet dripping with authority. And Connie, tell me, how are things at the office? Is your boss demanding? Is he teaching you well? Her voice was barely audible. Yes, he's very demanding. The pauses between her words stretched like thin ice beneath a heavy weight. I let the silence hang in the air, watching her shrink further into the chair, the cupcake box now a shield she could never use to defend herself. Marcellus fidgeted. I could feel his tension radiating through the sofa. The perfect husband, the confident professional, was now a man cornered, exposed. I rested my hand lightly on his arm, smiling affectionately as though nothing were wrong, as though the past betrayal did not exist. The effect was devastating. Connie's eyes darted between us, a mix of panic, regret, and humiliation. She realized the fantasy she had nurtured in secret was nothing more than a cruel illusion. Her face, once flushed with confidence, was now pale, drained, terrified. I decided to escalate. Darling, remember the charity gala next month? We'll be hosting it together, planning every detail, helping families. Connie, I'm sure you've never seen anything like it. Connie's lips parted, a soft gasp escaping. Her heartbeat was audible in the silence. Marcellus' jaw clenched. He had no escape, no words to soothe her, no excuses left to utter. I was in control. Then I leaned back, smiling at the scene I had orchestrated. Would anyone like some more tea? I asked innocently. Marcellus shook his head, too tense to move. Connie looked down at the plastic cup, too embarrassed to refuse. I poured myself a fresh cup from the gold-rimmed china, making sure she could see the stark difference. The silent message was crystal clear. She was out of place. Cheap, temporary, and powerless. I stood and walked slowly around the living room, deliberately letting my heels echo against the hardwood floor. Every step a reminder that this was my domain, my house, my life, and my rules. Keani flinched at each step while Marcellus shifted uncomfortably. Realizing the depth of his predicament, I picked up the cupcake she had brought, holding it delicately between my fingers, studying it as though it were an artifact of her audacity. Such a thoughtful gift, I said lightly, placing it on the table in front of her. Her hands twitched as she realized the gesture mocked her. The psychological play was working. Every glance, every gesture, every controlled word was a dagger aimed at, dismantling the false reality she had tried to create. Connie's face burned with shame. Marcellus's pride was suffocating under the weight of exposure. Then I spoke, voice calm but cutting. You know, Marcellus, it's funny how people can live double lives, how one can send sweet messages to another, yet sit at the dinner table pretending everything is fine. I let the words linger, letting Connie hear them, letting Marcellus feel every syllable like a physical blow. He tried to speak. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, swallowed by the enormity of the moment. Cowardice and guilt paralyzed him. Kahani's eyes widened as she realized he would say nothing to rescue her, nothing to reclaim his dignity, nothing to defend his choices. I moved closer to Kaani, lowering my voice, drawing her in with the intimacy of a predator circling prey. You see, Connie, I said softly, you may have thought you were special, but in the grand picture, you're just a momentary distraction, a passing whim, a temporary visitor in a life that doesn't belong to you. Her trembling intensified. She tried to find words, but none came. Her confidence, built over months of secret whispers and stolen moments, had evaporated in the face of reality. Marcellus' shoulders slumped. The man who had seemed so flawless in the office, so untouchable in public, was now revealed as the weak, panicked figure he had always feared exposing. I resumed my seat beside him, resting my head on his shoulder once more, sending a silent, cruel message of dominance. Connie could see it all, my claim, my control, my authority over the man she had coveted. And then I smiled at both of them, innocently, sweetly. But in that smile was the final, unspoken truth. The night had only begun, and the full reckoning was yet to come. The room had transformed. What was once a cozy living space filled with laughter and shared meals, now felt like a stage set for punishment. Kiani sat frozen, her small hands gripping the plastic cup as if it were a lifeline. Marcellus remained rigid on the sofa, every muscle taut, sweat tracing lines down his face. The reality of his betrayal was pressing down on him like a vice, and there was no escape. I leaned back slightly, letting a quiet moment hang heavy in the air. Then with deliberate calm, I spoke. "Connie, you must be exhausted, traveling all this way, sneaking into someone else's life. It must have taken courage, or perhaps recklessness." Her lips trembled. She wanted to respond, to explain herself, but fear paralyzed her tongue. Her eyes darted to Marcellus, searching for a lifeline, an excuse, a gesture, anything. But he was silent. His cowardice was palpable. I continued, voice soft but cold. "Do you know what's most fascinating? How easily someone can believe that a few stolen moments, a whispered compliment, a secret message, can ever amount to reality." Connie's hands shook. The cupcake, once her symbol of boldness, now sat useless and small before her. The disparity between her world and mine was glaring. Every detail I allowed her to see, the luxury, the composure, the intimacy between Marcellus and me, was a calculated dagger, aimed directly at her pride. Marcellus finally spoke, his voice a low, stammering attempt at reason. "Nadim, it's not what it looks like." I turned to him, smiling softly, resting my hand on his arm as though reassuring him. But the calmness was a trap. Every touch, every affectionate gesture, was a reminder that he belonged fully to me. "Not what it looks like?" I echoed. "Marcellus, don't waste your breath. We both know the truth, and so does she." My gaze flicked toward Kiani, who shrank further into her chair, unable to meet my eyes. The silence that followed was suffocating. Connie's panic was almost tangible. She tried to adjust, to reclaim some dignity, but the room was suffocating with the weight of truth. Every second emphasized her exclusion, her disposability, the fleetingness of the fantasy she had dared to create. I leaned in slightly, voice soft, almost conversational. "Marcellus, do you remember when we first started our life together? The tiny apartment, no furniture, barely enough money for rent? You promised me we would work together, build a life where neither of us would ever lack. And we did. All of it. Every luxury you see, every comfort we share. It's the result of our effort, not hers." Kiani flinched. Her face, pale already, now burned with the realization that she had no place in the life she had imagined. Every word I spoke reminded her that she was outside, irrelevant, powerless. I straightened, glancing at the clock. "And yet," I continued, almost conversationally, "some people think a few messages, a stolen glance, a late-night visit, can change that. Isn't that right, Connie?" Her voice was barely audible. She couldn't finish. Marcellus' panic was growing. Sweat dripped down his temple, his fingers tapping nervously against his knees. He wanted to apologize, to soothe, to salvage something, but every attempt would only deepen the humiliation. I smiled, faint, controlled. "Connie, this is your chance to see what reality looks like. This is the life you tried to interrupt. And Marcellus, you're a man who will never escape the consequences of betrayal, no matter how charming you are in the office." The contrast between my composed calm and their panic was absolute. Marcellus' confidence evaporated. Connie's defiance, if it had ever existed, had crumbled completely. I stood slowly, deliberately, letting my presence dominate the room. "Now," I said, voice steady, "we have all the time in the world to discuss boundaries, respect, and reality. And I intend to make sure both of you understand exactly what they mean." The words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Marcellus lowered his head, too ashamed to meet my eyes. Kiani sat frozen, trapped in the revelation of her fleeting role in our lives. The storm had broken. The trap was sprung. And I, calm, poised, unshakable, controlled every aspect of it. The night was far from over. The reckoning had only just begun. The living room was heavy with tension, as if time itself had paused. Connie sat frozen, shrinking into the armchair like a small, terrified animal. Marcellus's head remained bowed, his pride shattered, his confidence crumbling in the face of the truth. The air was thick, almost suffocating, but I remained calm, my movements deliberate, my voice steady. I leaned closer to Marcellus, resting my hand lightly on his arm. "Do you see, darling? This is the reality of betrayal. There's no charm, no excuses, no way to escape it." My tone was gentle, almost soothing, but beneath it lay an unyielding steel. Connie's trembling intensified. She glanced at Marcellus, searching desperately for reassurance, for a word that might save her from the humiliation she had brought upon herself. There was none. He couldn't speak. He had no defense. The man she thought untouchable, the man she had coveted, was powerless under the weight of his own guilt. I stood slowly, walking around the room with deliberate grace, every movement a reminder of control. You see, Connie, I said softly, in life some things are permanent. Some things cannot be stolen, borrowed, or replaced. Love, loyalty, trust. These are not gifts to be trifled with. And this, I gestured toward Marcellus, is mine, completely, undeniably, forever. Her face went pale. Her confidence, her audacity, dissolved like smoke in the wind. I watched her struggle to maintain composure, her hands clutching the plastic cup as if it could shield her from the reality crashing down around her. I sat back down beside Marcellus, leaning on his shoulder in a gesture of warmth and intimacy. His body went rigid under my touch, the faint sheen of sweat on his temples, the tight clenching of his fists, betrayed every emotion he tried to hide. My gaze flicked toward Kayani, who now sat utterly defeated, her youthful arrogance replaced by terror and regret. Marcellus, I said softly, addressing him for the first time directly since the storm began. Do you understand why this happened? This moment, this reckoning, it's not just about her. It's about you, about the choices you made, about the life you promised to build with me. Every secret, every betrayal comes with consequences. And tonight, you're facing them. He swallowed hard, finally lifting his eyes. They were filled with shame, fear, and desperation, but also recognition. He knew that everything he had worked to create outside the marriage, his image, his status, his control, was meaningless if he could not uphold loyalty at home. I turned to Connie one last time. And you, I said softly, this is your lesson. You cannot step into someone else's life and expect it to bend to your will. You cannot take what belongs to another and expect to escape the consequences. The world does not reward deceit, and the truth, no matter how long it is hidden, always finds a way to light. She said nothing, her eyes fixed on the floor. I could see the understanding, the fear, and the humiliation reflected in every feature of her face. Marcellus' shoulders slumped completely. His face was pale, his confidence erased. I could feel his remorse, real and raw, and in that moment, the depth of the betrayal I had endured. The anger and hurt finally found closure. I stood, smoothing my hair and adjusting my posture. The night is over, I said, and the house is quiet again. But let this be a memory that lingers, a lesson, a warning. Nothing is ever truly hidden, and those who believe they can play with fire will eventually get burned. Kiani slowly rose, still holding the cupcake box, now meaningless. Without a word, she left. The door closed behind her, leaving silence in her wake. Marcellus and I were alone. I looked at him, my gaze calm but penetrating. You understand now? I asked. He nodded, voice barely audible. Yes, I do. I'm sorry. I let the words hang. Apologies cannot undo the betrayal, but acknowledgement is the first step toward redemption. I sat back beside him, letting the weight of the night settle into quiet. The storm had passed, but the lesson remained. The luxury condo, once a scene of betrayal, now held only silence, reflection, and the quiet strength of a woman who had faced deception and emerged in control. Marcellus, humbled and aware, would never forget this night, and I, calm and resolute, knew that the future, our life, our love, our home was mine to protect, fully and without compromise. The night ended not with shouting, but with quiet power. The reckoning had been served, the lesson delivered, and the bond between us, though tested, reaffirmed. The storm had passed, leaving only clarity, strength, and the unshakable truth. No one, not even the cleverest intruder, could take what was mine.